Hi, I'm Andrew Strom, and welcome to the third in our series of cutting woodworking joints by hand. Today we're going to be cutting a half-lap joint, and it's going to build on the skills that we learned last time in cutting dado joints. A half-lap is simply a joint where half the thickness of both pieces is cut away so that when the two of them overlap each other, they sit flush. On one piece, we have a wide recess, which is going to use the same techniques as cutting a dado. And then the second piece, which is the one we're going to cut first actually, is going to introduce producing a tenon. The toolkit to make a half lap is much the same as when cutting a dado joint. Got a combination square, marking gauge, a layout knife, a mallet, a wide chisel. We're only going to use one, but use the widest chisel you've got, and a tenon saw. The reason for using a tenon saw is that it has enough depth to the spine in order to rip that tenon cheek all the way down. So begin with the layout, and I'm going to use the stock itself to lay out the dimensions of the joint. This piece is going to have the housing, and this is going to carry the tenon. I've marked my face surfaces because those will be our references for scribing with the marking gauge. So just make a mark on either side of this piece, flip them over, make a mark there just to indicate the position of the shoulder. Put the knife in that mark I just made, bring the square up to it, square my shoulder across, carry it about halfway down, do the same on the other surface, and then from my reference face, use my marking gauge to scribe the depth of my joint. I'll refer to this part as the shoulder, so this is essentially a tenon. And it's what's technically called a bare-faced tenon because it only has one. This is called the cheek. So the shoulder and the cheek. I'm going to cut the shoulder first, and I'll use the same techniques that I showed with the rabbet joint and the dado. To get a nice, even shoulder line, I'm going to incise with my wide chisel and then pare across the grain to make a V-shaped stop cut. Then I'll cut that shoulder line with my tenon saw. So the process for making an accurate cheek cut is to saw down along each edge. So cut on this edge first. So you can actually, if you find yourself deviating from the line, you can make minor course corrections just by moving your elbow towards your body or away a little bit. Turn the workpiece around, and then I'll make an angled cut down to the shoulder line along this edge. Then I'll reposition the work in the vise again with it perpendicular and so that it's following the scribed line along the end, and I'll rip straight down. So I wavered just a little bit with my cheek cut, so I'm going to take my chisel and clean up this area in here, just with some cross-grain paring. It's the same technique with these shoulders. Incise with the chisel, then come across to make that V-shaped stop cut, and then cut down with the saw. I'm going to remove the waste with my chisel. I'm going to pare down adjacent to each shoulder cut, leaving a high spot in the middle. And then I'll pare that down to the baseline that I've laid out. I'm only going to go partway across the width of my work, and then I'm going to turn it around and come in from the other side. So I'm down to the baseline on this side. I'm just going to turn it around and come back and even this surface up with the one I just created. And I think the grain direction is a little more favorable coming from this side. You can see how much smoother the cut is. That's pretty good. If I want, just put a square on it, or sorry, a rule, and see it actually rocks a little bit there. So there's just a little bit of a high spot. No high spot. Okay, we'll put the two together just with hand pressure. There's just a little bit above the surface, so I would take my plane and trim that flush. But that's about the degree of fit that you want, where you can put it together just with hand pressure, but it also stays together of its own. So there you have it, completed half lap joint. Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.